Right, so I don't have time to get up the hill and do anything today, but I did want to put out a video for the Black Sabbath farewell. Let me just get this out of the way, god damn it. Yeah, the Black Sabbath farewell tour, or gig, should I say, back to the beginning. That happened on July 5th. I watched the entire live stream, and I just wanted to do a bit of a video of it, a bit of a review, so to speak. First of all, I fucking loved it. I really enjoyed the entire event. I thought not only was it a celebration of Ozzy and Black Sabbath, it was a celebration of metal in general. I actually saw a comment from somebody on another video saying it was like Live Aid for metalheads, and that kind of summed it up perfectly. I thought I really had a good time watching it. I was kind of worried about whether I would be more concerned that I wasn't there, but I had a good time. I had a good time streaming it from home. I thought it was great. So I'm going to go through some thoughts. I'm going to go through all the acts, all the songs that were done, and give my thoughts on them. But I thought I'd start out with the actual stream itself. I thought it was very well done. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I don't think I've heard of anyone else who's talked shit about it either. I thought it was very well done. The picture quality was great. The audio was it was difficult to tell with the audio because it was just coming through my old laptop speakers, but I was certainly able to enjoy the songs, that's for damn sure. There was only one point during Alice in Chains set where the sound completely disappeared for a minute or two, and then it came back. That was the only issue. There was no real lag or any problems like that. It was actually very well done. It's very well shot as well. So like I said earlier, this really was, not only was it a celebration of Black Sabbath, it really felt like a celebration of metal in general. There was a few things though. Andy Edwards, I'm sure a lot of you would have seen his videos. He's got a very popular YouTube channel. I was actually watching his review on it. He made actually a valid point that I'd never actually considered. Birmingham is cited as the home of metal, so it's a real shame that there weren't actually some more Birmingham bands on there. Now, I think Judas Priest were on tour at the same time, I think. They did have KK Downing come on. We'll get into that a bit later on. So they did kind of have the Priest connection there. They played Breaking the Law as well. But it would have been nice to maybe have had Diamond Head, you know, because that was kind of that bridge between what Sabbath and, you know, the NWO, BHM was going on, and, you know, the bridge over to Metallica. It would have also been kind of cool to have had Napalm Death there for the really extreme side of metal. And, of course, you know, there's Birmingham through and through. But, yeah, so it's a shame that they weren't there. But, that being said, yeah, I thought this was a real heartwarming event. I mean, I can't think of any other gig where the headliner has been pretty much directly responsible for every other band there. You know what I mean? It's like, when you look at the lineup, very, very few of those bands would exist without Sabbath. There aren't many events where you have that, where the headliner was that directly responsible for all the people, for all the other bands that were playing. It was fucking great. Anyway, let's start getting into some of the bands. So opening the show was Mastodon. They played Black Tongue, Blood and Thunder, and finished off with Supernaut, which also had a bit of a drum circle going on with Mario Duplantier from Gojira, Danny Carey from Tool, obviously, and Eloy Casagrande. He's in Slipknot now, isn't he? He used to be in Sepultura. I thought I think they did pretty good. It was a strong opening set. I had a feeling they'd open with Black Tongue for some reason, but Supernaut, there were no vocals going on. I think Bron's mic wasn't working, so there wasn't any real vocals coming from him, which is a bit of a shame. Then it went into this kind of drum off in the middle. Then it finished off the song, and Bron's vocals were intact, so to speak, at that point. But it was an okay set. I got to admit, it was kind of strange not having Brent there. I hate to admit it, but I do kind of... I struggled to call it Mastodon. I'm a huge Mastodon fan. Any of you who've watched this channel for a long time will know I'm a huge Mastodon fan, but I don't know. I did struggle with that a bit, but it was a solid enough set. Rival Sons were on next. I'm not really that familiar with them. They did a song called Do Your Worst. Then they did a cover of Electric Funeral, which is pretty damn solid. And then they finished with a song called Secret. Like I said, I don't really know any of them. Vocalist was pretty fucking badass. He was hitting some notes, I'll tell you, but yeah, not really my sort of music, but I thought they were pretty solid. Anthrax were on next. They only played 2 songs. Indians, which of course, you know, always goes down well. Joey seemed to struggle with the vocals a little bit. But then they went into their Sabbath cover, which was Into the Void. Sounded great. Joey sounded much better on that. He did seem like he struggled with some of the words at the point. I'm pretty sure he was reading off a teleprompter. I could be wrong, but yeah, they did a pretty solid job. I mean, it's Anthrax. They were always good live. Halestorm came on next, and this is a band that I've never really bothered with. I have to say, Lzzy Hale fucking kicked ass. Her vocals were absolutely spot on. She's got some real grit, some real, well, grit, I've just said it. As I said, I'm not really too familiar. They did a song called Love Bites and then Rain Your Blood on Me. They were both cool. And then their cover was actually an Ozzy cover. They did Perry Mason, and I thought they did a pretty solid job of it. Like I said, her vocals were absolutely spot on. With the exception of one, she was the only female there, so but she represented. She did really good. Lamb of God were on next. They fucking did amazing. They really stole the show up to that point. I believe that was the first Circle Pit as well that went on with Lamb of God. They played Laid to Rest and Redneck, and then they did a fucking slamming version of Children of the Grave. I've got to say that in terms of like frontmen, certainly up to this, no, actually pretty much for the day, Randy Bly killed it. I think he was the star of the show in many ways. He absolutely kicked ass. He got the crowd so wound up in a good way, and he was just super positive, supercharged. I thought Lamb of God were absolutely excellent. That was really good to see. Next up, we had a bunch of, a Supergroup A, it was called here. First off, we had Lzzy Hale, Nuno Bettencourt, Jakey Lee come back on, which is really cool. David Ellefson from Megadeth, of course. Mike Bordin on drums from Faith No More, and Adam Wakeman, who was on keyboards, I guess. They did The Ultimate Sin, Lzzy Hale, I thought did a pretty solid job of that. Next up, David Draiman replaced Lzzy. Apparently he got booed. I didn't actually hear that in the stream, so I don't know if that was kind of lessened. I don't know. The stream, by the way, was actually 2 hours after there was a two hour sort of break between what was going on live and what you saw on the stream. So I don't know if that's something they doctored in post kind of thing, but I didn't notice that. But David Draiman got booed pretty heavily, apparently. He did Shot in the Dark. I actually thought he did a pretty good job. I didn't think he was that bad. I've given him some shit on this channel, but I thought he was all right. Sweetleaf was up next. David Draiman again. However, Scott Ian joined the rest of the guys for this one. This was another solid cover as well. I thought he did okay. I thought he did an admirable job. Next up, for vocals, we had Whitfield Crane from Ugly Kid Joe. I've always thought he was a good vocalist, actually. I think he's been a very underappreciated vocalist in the past, and I think he did a fucking great job. They did Believer. Frank Bello from Anthrax came in on bass on that, replacing Ellefson. And Sleep Token 2 was on drums. I think it's literally called a Sleep Token 2. So next up was one of the highlights of the show, and this one really shocked me. Changes, the Black Sabbath song, Youngblood, who is somebody I would have never considered to check out in any way whatsoever. He came on and did the vocals for Changes. He stole the show. He did a phenomenal performance. It was amazing. And then after that, we actually had a pre-recorded video that was introduced by Revel Ian, who I believe is Scott Ian's son, and Roman Morello, who I believe is Tom Morello's son. And they did a video of Mr. Crowley, those two playing bass and drums. There was a keyboardist and a drummer there as well, all kids as well. I don't know who they were, but Jack Black fronted that. And that was kind of a funny thing. It was a pre-recorded video. Next up was Alice in Chains, and they did Man in the Box and Wood. And they did a solid job, and they also did Fairies Wear Boots as their Sabbath cover. I already mentioned the sound dropped out. I can't remember what song it was they were playing, but the sound went out for a couple of minutes during Alice in Chains. That was a bit of a shame, but yeah, they did a solid job. Gojira were up next. Their sound was, it sounded a bit off with them. I don't know, I presume it was more of a problem with the mix than anything else, but they still put in a solid performance. Stranded and Silvera, they did. Mea Culpa, the one they did at the Olympics or whatever it was, with Marina Viotti doing very operatic vocals. She killed it. And then they did a fantastic cover of Sabbath's Under the Sun, one of their heaviest songs, and Gojira really did a a great job of, really did a great job of that. Next up, Tom Morello came on. This is the start of his... I think Tom Morello put these supergroups together. I could be wrong on that. But so this next section started out with Tom Morello and Nuno Bettencourt on guitar, and Rudy Sarzo, who used to play with Ozzy, on bass. And we had 3 drummers. We had Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, Travis Barker from Blink 182, of course, and Danny Carey. And they were all doing this drum off of Symptom of the Universe, which is actually a good choice, because anyone who knows that song, the drum fills that Bill Ward was doing in that just lent itself to doing the drum off. So they play a verse, and then they just do, each one would take a turn in doing some drum fills, and it was okay. I'm not really too bothered about that sort of stuff, but hey. So next up we have another supergroup. Billy Corgan on vocals, Tom Morello, KK Downing joined, Adam Jones from Tool, Rudy Sarzo and Danny Carey stayed on, and they did a cover of Breaking the Law. So this was the Judas Priest connection here. Ironically enough, I actually did a video not so long ago about 10 more vocalists that you guys hate. Billy Corgan was one of them. I actually defended Billy Corgan, and I still do on his own stuff. By God, mate, he kind of sucked on this, but yeah, it wasn't the best. He also stayed to do a cover of Snowblind, which I think sounded a little better than Breaking the Law, but it wasn't great. Next up, Sammy Hagar came on, and he was with Nuno Bettencourt, Adam Wakeman, Rudy Sarzo, Chad Smith and Vernon Reid from Living Colour, and they did Flying High again, followed by Rock Candy, which I think is a Montrose song. I wasn't too familiar with it, but it was pretty well done. I kind of enjoyed it. Bark at the Moon was up next, and this featured Papa v Perpetua from Ghost, Vernon Reid, Nuno Bettencourt, Adam Wakeman, Rudy Sarzo and Travis Barker, this time on drums. I thought he did a solid job. I thought Tobias Forge did a really great job, actually, of singing, which is better than I've done of talking. Next up, Steven Tyler joined in, along with Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones, and Andrew Watt. I'm not sure where Andrew Watt is from, but they did The Train Kept A-Rolling, and then Walk This Way, and which segued into Whole Lot of Love. I actually thought Steven Tyler did really good. I'm not a huge Aerosmith fan, I'm not a huge Steven Tyler fan, but I gotta admit, he did pretty damn good. I was quite impressed with what he did. Pantera were on next. They did Cowboys from Hell, Walk, then 2 Sabbath covers, Planet Caravan and Electric Funeral, both of which I believe they've done. Obviously, Planet Caravan featured on Far Beyond Driven. I'm pretty sure they did the cover of. I'm pretty sure their cover of Electric Funeral was on one of the Nativity in Blacks. So yeah, it was a solid. It was a solid set. I don't know. Zach's guitar sounded pretty bad to me, and not his playing. His playing is always awesome, but sounded kind of the tone just sounded kind of off to me. But it was a solid set from Pantera. Jason Momoa, who was comparing the whole thing. He got in the crowd, he got in the pit and did his "look at me" kind of thing. It's like, I'm not sure what I think of him. On the one hand, I think he's kind of a cool guy, and on the other, I kind of think he'd fucking annoy me after a while. But anyway, that's just me being an arsehole. Next up was Tool. They did... Oh, fuck off. Take your phone call somewhere else, you prick. I hate people who do that. God damn, it's getting hot in here. Next up was Tool with 46 and 2. Then they went into a cool cover of Hand of Doom. I thought they did a pretty solid job of it. And then they finished with Enema. It was classic Tool. Tool during the day nowadays is kind of not the most dynamic thing. I know a lot of the stuff they do now is kind of, with the silhouettes and in the darkened arenas and stuff like that. So it was kind of interesting seeing them during the day, and it was okay, but I'm not, I wasn't blown away by it. Next up, however, Slayer. Oh my God, I thought Slayer did a fucking great job. They were so damn good. This was where my heart welled up a bit, actually, because it was like, this is where it was really like, okay, this is the celebration of metal. You know what I mean? This is what Sabbath have given us, They opened with Disciple, went into War Ensemble, I think they only played half of War Ensemble, then went into Wicked World, which is their Sabbath cover, and I thought they did a great job of it. The interplay between Kerry King and Gary Holt I thought was fantastic with the guitars. There was a great bit as well at the beginning that you could see Paul Bostoff was actually kind of just closing his eyes, concentrating on the timing on it. It was kind of cool to see, but they completely pulled it off. After that, they went into South of Heaven, then the onslaught of Raining Blood and Angel of Death. And there's footage online that you can see of the pits, the circle pits going on during these songs, Raining Blood in particular. And my God, it went off. It was so good to see. It's so good to see all these guys who were there to worship Sabbath, but absolutely going off on Slayer. It was heartwarming for me. Guns N' Roses were up next. This was kind of a difficult one because Axl really did seem to struggle. His voice was just, he really seemed to struggle quite a bit through it. He seemed quite self-conscious as well. There was a point where he was talking to the crowd and he kind of tripped up as well. And yeah, he seemed a little out of sorts. He didn't, seem very self-conscious, you know what I mean? And they did 4 Sabbath covers. Started out with It's Alright, which is quite an obscure song from Never Say Die? With Bill Ward singing. Then they went into Never Say Die. Then they did Junior's Eyes. So 3 quite obscure songs from 2 of their least liked albums. That was kind of ballsy, I thought. But then they did a cover of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, which I thought they did a solid job of that. Like I said, Axl was struggling a little bit at times, but the crowd really went off for their two own stuff, which is Welcome to the Jungle and Paradise City. I kind of can't help feeling that maybe they could have done 2 Sabbath covers and 4 of their own, and I think it might have done a little better when they went into their own material. The crowd really responded well to that. But next up was Metallica, and I love Metallica and they're always reliable. They did sound a little bit sloppy, Kirk definitely struggled a few times with he seemed to get lost with the solos at quite a few points. Lars is Lars, you know what I mean? He has an energy all of his own. He just plays what he plays and he, keeps the time together, But yeah, it was a little sloppy, but at the same time sounded pretty good. Hetfield and Trujillo were pretty solid. They started out with Hole in the Sky. It was pretty cool jam. Then they went into Creeping Death and For Whom the Bell Tolls, so some classics there. Then they did a cover of Johnny Blade, which actually I thought was a really cool thing for them to do. Great cover of a really cool song. I really do like that song, so that was nice to hear that. And then they finished with Battery and Master of Puppets. And there's no way Metallica couldn't have been on the bill. They owe so much to Sabbath, and it was really cool to see. Solid job, not amazing, but solid as Metallica. Next up was Ozzy Osbourne. This is where I nearly got a bit teary because he was stuck in a chair for the entire time. The chair rose up through the stage and he was on his throne. And I think what got me is that there were times where you could clearly see how much he wanted to get out of the chair and just run around and just be part of it. And obviously, physically, he can't, which is a real shame. But he played I Don't Know, Mr. Crowley, Suicide Solution, Mama, I'm Coming Home, and Crazy Train. I'll tell you this, when he sang Mama, I'm Coming Home, I nearly wept. I've said some... I've not been that complimentary of Ozzy's solo stuff on this channel, but I'll hands up, that got me. I thought he did great, everything considered. Vocally, I thought he sounded fantastic. And yeah, Mama, I'm Coming Home, when he went into that was like, they panned to the audience so many times during that as well, and everyone was crying. It was just like, oh my God, that hit home so hard. And then we had Black Sabbath. And they only played 4 songs, which was a shame. Black Sabbath was not one of them. They started out with those iconic bells, and I thought they were going to go into Black Sabbath, but they didn't, which was a real shame. But they did play War Pigs, how could they not? NIB, Iron Man, and the final track was Paranoid. Now, Paranoid is one of those Sabbath songs that I'm kind of sick of hearing, but hearing them play it for basically the last time, live, much like Mama, I'm Coming Home, I nearly welled up on it. I nearly welled up at that bit. It was like, wow, that's, it really did resonate just how much they've given us, for all of us who love the music that we love, how much Sabbath are responsible for it. And I thought it was a really fitting tribute. I thought it was a great way to end the career. You know, I thought it was really well done, and I'm glad I watched it. I had a great time watching it. As I've said a few times throughout this, it wasn't just an ode to Black Sabbath, it was an ode to metal. It really did feel like you could feel the evolution of metal going throughout the whole event, and just how it kind of come full circle with Sabbath. And it was a beautiful thing. It made me proud to be a metalhead. I am proud to be a metalhead. And it was a beautiful experience, and I thought the stream went really well. All of the bands really stepped up to the plate. There were no real bad performances, to be honest with you. I enjoyed the whole thing. The spirit of it was all just to, you know, say thank you to Sabbath and to Ozzy, and it was fucking great. I had a good time. I enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome. I guess the only thing I wanted to say about the Sabbath stuff was Bill Ward did a solid job, but there was definitely a lot of the fills that he wasn't doing, you know what I mean? They were definitely more simplified versions of what you'd normally get. We didn't have those dramatic drum fills during War Pigs. They were kind of more dun dun, you know what I mean? But they still got the point across. Geezer, I thought, sounded great. Tony was as reliable as ever. He's the riff lord. I mean, they only had 4 songs. They were only getting warmed up before they... The only other thing I missed was that Fred Durst actually did a cover of, I think it was Changes as well. It was a video. It was obviously pre-recorded, and it was him along with somebody playing on acoustic guitar and a celloist. I don't know if it was whatever. And I got to admit, he did a pretty damn good job. It seems a bit, strange finishing a Black Sabbath gig review with Fred Durst, purely because I forgot to mention it earlier on, but Sabbath fucking rules. That's how we'll finish. All right. This isn't the review that I wanted to do, but I haven't got time to go out and do it after work, so I'm just doing this in the car on my lunch break. But I just wanted to put something out there, because if I didn't put it out now, then this is the sort of thing that gets kind of forgotten about pretty quickly. So I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. Overall, I had a really good time watching it. I thought all the bands were just playing within, with the spirit of what the event was about, and they all honoured Sabbath and Ozzy fittingly, and it was just a beautiful thing. It's like I said earlier, how many events are there where the headliners of the show are directly responsible for pretty much all of the other bands? If it wasn't for Sabbath, none of those other bands would be doing what they're doing, or at least not in the way that they're doing it. You know what I mean? It really was kind of an eye-opening experience into just how influential and ahead of their time and magical Black Sabbath were. I know there were a lot of people who were kind of pissed off that they didn't represent the other eras of Sabbath, but I mean, let's be honest, I think this was just as much a goodbye to Ozzy as it was to Sabbath, because he's clearly the main reason why they can't do it anymore. It was quite sad to see. He physically can't do it anymore, as simple as that. And I know there were the other iterations of Sabbath, but for me, Sabbath will always be Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Ozzy Osbourne, and Bill Ward. Yeah. All hail Black Sabbath. That's all I got to say. Catch you later.